So we have the oil in the shop and it's time to start filtering it. So first we're going to go look at this container and we're going to see what the water level is. To filter your oil, the first step is going to be settling. Now this oil, it's already going to be settled at a mechanic shop like we just saw. And what that means is you're just letting the dirt and the water settle to the bottom of that container. And then you can drain it off. Now we saw at the mechanic shop when we opened that valve, a bunch of water come out, and that's a good thing. Now, the bad thing is we collected a little bit of that water when we picked the oil up. We didn't put our hose at the correct depth in that container, so we got some with us. So what do? We put it in our settling container. We let it sit for a few days to a couple weeks. You can even let it sit for months, depending on how much time you have on your hands and how much oil you got. And you just let it sit. We would just drain this water from this valve right here. We would open this cam lock fitting, which I'm not going to right now. But then we're just going to open this valve and crack it, and all the water will come off the bottom. Here's a little bamboo stick I got. And we're going to use this product called Color Cut. We're going to put this on the stick, and what it's going to do, if it has instructions on here, is it's going to turn red when it comes in contact with water. It says a few seconds for gasoline, and for oil or diesel, it may take up to a minute or two for it to turn red. So let's apply some paste to the stick. Just gonna get some of this. I'm gonna dab it on there. That should be enough. Maybe next time wear gloves instead of using your hand like me. And what we're doing is we're putting it on the stick, and when we dip the stick into the oil, we'll know exactly what our water level is. That should be good. Wipe my hand off. So we'll take this stick, and we'll dip it in here. We'll just let it sit for a minute. We're going to pull the stick up now. Have a rag ready. You can see you got some oil on there, which makes it hard, so we have to set it in there a little bit longer. So this oil has been in here for a few minutes. We can see that this did not change colors. This is all orange still. So that means that this is good dry oil that we collected and that there's no water. Now if there was a large amount of water, this would have turned red. So since we didn't have that, we know this is good oil that we can run through our centrifuge next. Just take a rag and we will wipe this off for next time. So we checked this tank and there's no water in it, which means we got good and dry oil. Now, if there was water in it, I think I've shown this to you before, you can see we got a cam lock fitting. The IBC totes, they're typically going to be 2 inches, but the threadings on those IBC totes vary from manufacturer to manufacturer and use to use. So if you use a cam lock, which this is, you don't even have to worry about the threadings, you just slide it on, lock it in place. Once this container is settled, we just drain the water off of it and it goes up that hose somewhere else. And typically we use that water, we dispose of it at a recycling center. Now we're at the most important step of producing your own fuel, filtering the oil. And this is the most crucial step because you need to pull all that dirt and water, if you have some, and contaminants out of that oil so that you don't damage your engine and that it runs good on this oil. So let's take a look at our filtration systems. You can see there's a couple of ways to do this. You can use barrels or you can use IBC totes. And then you can go gravity like this, or you can use a pump like over here. Gear pump like we have right here. It sucks oil from the bottom of this container, which we have already drained the water off of it, and it feeds it to the centrifuge. We use a 3-phase controller to control the RPM of that motor, thus controlling the flow rate. And typically this is going to be set between 5 and 15 hertz depending on the RPM setting on your motor, or the RPM rating. And the exact same thing, it flows into the centrifuge and it gravity feeds from that unit back to the container below it. Like I mentioned earlier, I like to use IBC totes because of their size and the volume of oil they can hold and the convenience of that valve on the bottom. But what if you don't have the space for a gravity setup like over here? Or you don't have the power requirements because you're off grid and you don't have the capability to use a motor. What we can use is just use a regular oil drum, and we can gravity feed it just the same as an IBC tote. And with an oil drum, you can get a sealed container and you can put a 2-inch NPT fitting on it, and we put a 2-inch cam lock on it like we always do. And you can fill this with oil. There is a port up there. I believe it's either 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch NPT. And you can use that as a vent and a fill port. And you can fill this drum all the way up. You can then feed oil with your hose to your centrifuge, just like what we have over here. This is extremely simple, guys. This is great for confined spaces if you don't have space or room height for IBC totes. And you can even put this barrel lower than what it is right now. The IBC tote, you can get a 2-inch male adapter. Teflon tape it, of course, but that just screws right in, just like that. And then you can get your 2-inch cam lock, put it on there just like that. You can lock it in place. And there we go. Now, there's a reason we use centrifuges instead of filters to clean oil. Filters are just not good for cleaning oil, and they're not good enough. And here's why. Now, how clean does your fuel need to be? Typically, whenever you're producing your own fuel, you want to clean it down to under 1 micron. If you cannot clean your fuel to under 1 micron, I would not recommend using it in your equipment. And that's the reason we don't use filters. According to Donaldson Filters, the particulates and dirt that causes the most harm to an engine fuel system is particles within the 0.5 micron to 5 micron fuel range. According to Donaldson Filters, it's virtually sandblasting the inside of your fuel system. When that fuel is going through your injection pump, it's going through your injection lines, and it's going through your injectors. Those particles are hard on your system and will prematurely wear out components. And that's why we don't use filters. Filters are typically going to clean fuel between the 2 to 5 micron range for the finest ones, and then 10 to 15 microns for your lower grade fuel filters. Now, fuel filters aren't going to catch all the dirt in your oil. It's not going to catch the emulsified oil. It's not going to catch water if it's not a water separator filter. It's not going to catch the sludge. It's primarily just going to remove metal shavings and particles larger than the filter is rated for. The other thing is filters like this have an efficiency rating. Typically, your good filters are going to have an 80 to 90% efficiency rating. Your worst quality filters can have somewhere between a 70 to 80% efficiency rating. What does that mean? Well, for every million particles going through a filter, it might catch between 700 to 900,000 of those particles. That means 300,000 particles are going through the filter that it did not catch. And that's why we use a centrifuge. We use a centrifuge because no filter can match it in efficiency. A centrifuge is going to evaporate and remove any trace amounts of water in that oil. It's going to catch the emulsified oil and sludge that goes right through a filter. It's going to catch all the hard particles down to a 0.5 micron in size. A centrifuge outperforms a filter in pretty much every way possible. Let's take a look at the bowl. Right here we have the bowl of a centrifuge. We got the cover removed off of it, and we can see that there is a large amount of surface area this oil has to pass through. So with our bowl, our dirty oil is going to enter the center of the bowl. The dirty oil is then going to travel to the very bottom and it'll be pushed to the bottom of the bowl with this cone. You see the dirty oil is going to come through, and it's going to splash when it hits that bowl. And when it splashes, we don't want it to splash up and escape. So this cone is going to direct the oil to the very bottom. And once the oil is at the very bottom of this bowl, it then has to travel all the way up this wall. And once it travels through this wall, it's going to have to come through and go back over our lid to escape from a groove. In total, this oil is going to have to travel over 6.5 surface inches before escaping as clean oil. That's 15.5 centimeters roughly for you non-American folks. And this bowl, what you're going to see happen is you're going to have your water and heavy sludge at the bottom of the bowl. Then, as you work your way up this wall, you'll start to see your hard particles, maybe metal shavings, carbon, soot, lighter particles. The oil is then going to come back through. And it's going to travel along this edge on top of this bowl. And once it's on the underside of this lip, it's going to come up and fling out. And that's going to be your clean oil. Now, this is why bowl design is so important. You can have a big bowl, but if you do not have a big flange to keep dirt inside, those light particles are just going to escape and it'll be useless. So this is why having a large bowl for high G-force is important. It's why having a large flange is important for holding all the particles within the bowl. Bowl design is extremely important when selecting a centrifuge to purify your oil. Now, your gravity setup is going to be the most popular type of system to feed a centrifuge, and here's why. A system like this is extremely simple in design. All you do is you have a container up top with oil, and you're going to feed it through 2 valves. One valve will be our on and off. The second valve will set our flow rate. Typically with this unit, you're going to flow between 5 to 10 gallons per hour. Once that oil is passed through that unit, it is clean oil. And you'll find this with all styles of centrifuges. The slower you pass that oil through the unit, the cleaner it will be. Time in the bowl is everything for pure oil so that it catches all that dirt. Once the oil goes through, it's going to go to the bottom of our inline heater. Once it's in the bottom, it's going to travel up and go through our thermostat. And the reason we have oil go through the bottom is we never want to leave this thermostat with no oil in it so that it increases its lifespan and you don't have to worry about it burning out. The oil then goes through a 400-degree rated hose and into the unit. Now, before I open this bowl up, I'm going to show you how you run this centrifuge. So you're either going to have a 3-phase or a single-phase centrifuge. Most of you probably have a single-phase motor. You just plug it in and you have a switch to turn it on and off. Now, if you have a 3-phase, it's pretty simple. You just have your stop and run button, and that controls the RPM of your motor. And you can see right here, you just click run, and now it's turned on. We plug our inline heater in and we heat it up. I'm going to turn the centrifuge on first so that the oil enters the bowl while it is spinning. We have our valve on top already open. This valve is generally going to be preset. Right now it's not. I'm going to open it about 3 turns. And then we open this valve up. Now we have oil flowing. And here in a minute we'll have clean oil start coming out of this hose. And we now have oil flowing out of this tube. Let me get a really closer look. This secondary hose is where your dirty oil is going to come out of. Now, this is only going to be when you turn the machine off. That bowl holds about a half gallon of oil. And when you turn off the machine, it has to go somewhere. So all that dirty oil will come out of this tube and then it'll go into this container down here below. And typically I recommend either running it into a small bucket if you're going to be in the shop. If you're not going to be in the shop, run it into a large container such as a 55-gallon barrel in case your machine turns off when you're not here and the oil has a large container to flow into. And that's how we clean oil. Now, something people aren't going to tell you is when you have this container up here full all the way to the top, your bulkhead pressure is going to be a lot higher. So what does that mean? As your oil level starts to drop in this container, your flow rate is going to slow down because there's less pressure. What you may want to do is, let's say you want to aim for a 5 gallon per hour flow rate, maybe set it at 10 gallons per hour. When you set it at 7 gallons an hour, it's going to remain steady at that flow rate. And then as the container is draining away, it'll drop back down to 5 gallons per hour. So it's been running for a minute, the oil's been turned off, and we're now ready to turn the machine off. And we can now hear the bowl slowing down. This bowl is stopped now, and we're going to have oil start coming out. And that's all our dirty oil draining from the bowl. And typically you'll have about a half gallon come out. We're going to let this sit for about 10-15 minutes so the bowl can completely drain, and then we'll open it up for y'all. So it's been a few minutes and we're going to crack open the bowl now. So our oil has completely drained into this container. So we got about a half gallon of oil in here. And we're going to have to open these 3 clasps, which are all around the unit. There's just 3 of them. We're going to open up this lid, and then we're going to remove the bowl. You can look at that. If we look closely, we can see the fan pattern from the clean oil. You can see we have a pattern right here going out, another one going in and out, another one, almost like a hazmat or a radiation symbol. Now to remove this, all we have to do is get our Ugga machine, put it in the center, and just give it a quick twist, and it's loose. The thing you can do is you can take your unit lid, put it right there, get your hose and put it inside your machine so it doesn't drip. We'll just pick this up. It's a little heavy. And we're gonna put this on top of our unit lid. And now we got a lid that'll hold all the oil and we can clean it out. This is our dirty oil inside the unit. You see, you got my reflection in here. But this is our motor mount. So this is our motor shaft. This is the mount that the bowl sits on. Now right here you can see this discoloration in the oil. And that's actually going to be water. So that right there is water and sludge. And we can see this is the outer housing. So this is where our clean oil falls into. This is a very simple design. So as the unit cleans, dirty oil stays captured on the inside and it drains out our port right here. Clean oil goes over this wall and then it drains out our other port back over here. So that's how simple one of these machines are. Now let's open this bowl up. Now we're going to open this bowl up and we have 6 screws going around it. And these are Allen heads. And typically you want to use like an Allen wrench or an impact. If you use an impact, be extremely careful. I am setting a bad example for y'all, but I like it because it's quick and easy. And the reason I say that though is the threading is extremely delicate on this bowl, and you don't want to strip out those threadings or pop out the metal tab under this bowl. It's a press fit crimp that this screw threads into, and if you're rough with it, it'll become dislodged and you have to use a press to reinstall it. I'll take these 6 screws out. Missed one. And we're going to open it up. Now to open it up, we're just going to take our hand, maybe a rag so we keep our hands clean. We're going to turn this so our locking lid can come loose. And then we're going to use a container to put this bowl lid into so we don't get any dirty oil on anything. So we're going to pop this up. Look at that. That's what we're dealing with. And this is a perfect example. So we can see on this accelerator cone, we have a bunch of dirty oil on the top of this cone. We can also have some sludge right here on the edge of this mold. And this is why having a wide flange is so important for getting your clean oil out and keeping your contaminants in. If this was any smaller, all this dirty oil would have escaped. So this is the bowl, and we can see we have all this sludge. Those orange spots is going to be water, and then everything else is just dirt and sludge. And if I take a card, I can just scrape this all out. Look at that, this is all paste. This is what a filter will not catch. And this is what you'll be running through your truck engine if you're not using a centrifuge, is all this sludge and paste. And this is exactly why we use this before running fuel in our trucks from waste oil. Absolutely disgusting. Now when you're cleaning these bowls out, and it's extremely simple, you can use a spatula. Maybe you can steal one from your wife if she has one in the kitchen. You can use it to clean this bowl out. And this stuff makes really good fire starter. So you can use it for fire starter if you live in the countryside. If you don't want to do that, you can just bag it up and take it to your local auto parts store or recycling center and dispose of it that way. Some of you may be curious how much sludge that actually is. So we're going to weigh an empty bowl and then this heavy bowl to compare it side by side and figure out how much dirt and sludge we catched. And this came from about a 150-gallon batch of oil. I forgot the scale in the packaging shop, so we're going to do this real quick, and I brought the bowl with me. We got our scale, but our bowl is bigger than our scale. So we're going to put a cone on here. We're going to wait for that to settle. We're going to zero it out. Here's our empty bowl. Place that on there. We are at 3 pounds and 6.3 ounces. I'm going to take this off. We're going to get our dirty bowl, which is in this container. Let that settle. We are at 4 pounds and 9.6 ounces. Let me do some quick math on that. So 4 pounds and 9 ounces minus 3 pounds 6 ounces leaves us 1 pound and 3 ounces of material removed from roughly 200 gallons of oil. So this is why we use a centrifuge instead of using filters, and this is what goes through your fuel system if you don't clean waste oil. Pine. Right here is our burn pile. Got some pine needles we need to burn up. And remember that spatula I mentioned earlier? Something like this, it's rubber. We can just use this to scrape all this sludge out. Oh yeah, this is a good amount of stuff. Said about 1 pound and 3 ounces of material pulled from all that oil. You can see the texture of it. It's almost like Jello. We got it scraped out. It looks a little funny sitting there. But this is the empty bowl now. It's not going to be perfect. We're just going to put dirty oil in here anyways to clean out another batch. But we can use a lighter and light this stuff up. And sometimes you can add some gasoline to thin it out because it doesn't like catching fire very easily. There you go, now you hear it burning. So if you have a question about anything you saw in this video that we did not cover, you can send me an email at info@pabiodieselsupply.com. You can go to our website and there should be an email us button in the top right corner or at the very bottom page of that website. The second thing you can do is give me a call and be glad to answer your questions. Now, if you want the complete list to everything you need to start producing black diesel, I'm talking about containers to store the oil in at a shop, the transfer pumps, collection pumps, hoses, ball valves, fittings, your color cut for testing water, your centrifuge kit, your plywood, your inline heater, your hoses, containers, cam locks, everything you need to begin producing black diesel. I have a PDF file I can send you, and it's going to go line by line, every single part you need, and there will be links as well to stuff you can find online. You can also get this Ultimate Force Centrifuge from us. You can check it out on the website, and I hope you found this video helpful.